trouble painting water and getting it to look right? If so, this is the video for you, so let's go. Hi, I'm Alisa of Alisa Laporte Art, and today we're going to talk about water. Do you find yourself struggling when it comes to painting water and seascapes? Come paint with me as I show you some tips to get your water looking right. To get started today, we're going to go in wet on dry with our cobalt blue, just adding it to the areas that I want the darkest blue, and then I'm going to clean my brush. And with clean water, I'm going to just soften those edges, moving the blue out and just creating a gradient. I want to go around those rocks, though I do want them to be kind of misty looking to begin with. So I am going to wet them with clean water and then go in with a very pale kind of gray tone that has more green and blue in it. And I'm going to start my water. Now, one of the effects with water you want to make sure you get right is making it horizontal. You want your lines to all be horizontal. It's okay if they have little peaks and they're not perfectly straight, but you want them to be horizontal. If you start getting diagonals in one way or another, that's going to throw your water off. And then you want to also make sure that you're leaving some areas of white. As you can see I'm doing here, I'm making sure some areas are more filled in, where some still have white. That's going to give us the effect of where the sun is glinting off the water, especially in these more choppy waves. That's where I'm going to have some of those peaked waves. So the underside of our line will be straight, and then it'll peak a little bit on top, and that's okay. I'm changing up my color a little bit, darkening things up, so as the water goes further back near those rocks, it's going to be a lot lighter. Now I'm creating a mixture of both burnt and raw umber. I want to create the reflection of those rocks up there, so I need a nice dark color. Now this is the only part where in the water I'm going to have some vertical lines because those reflections will appear more vertical, but I still need to make sure along those edges that I have some horizontal lines, and that will give the appearance of it still being the water, but with a reflection. So remember when you're doing your reflections to have it go in vertically, but then come in over top on the edges and a little bit throughout it and have some horizontal lines. With that same mixture, I'm going to go in and kind of map out where my rocks are for this first layer. So I'm just creating one layer throughout this whole painting here. So I want to go in and decide where I want everything, and then I'm going to wait for it to dry, and then we'll start a second layer. So here I'm going to go in with that burnt and raw umber, creating our sand. And I'm going to just give it a nice wash. Then I'm going to get more pigment, so about the consistency of cream. And I'm going to create what appears to be footprints in the sand. So it's still wet, but because I have thickened my paint and the paint on my page has dried just a little bit, it will allow those to bleed out, but not be out of control. They're not going to be destroyed and blend out too much. They're going to stay a little bit in their shape, but I do want them to be very soft. And I'm going to go in with a really deep raw and burnt umber. And I do add just a touch of Payne's Gray to this to really darken it up. And I'm going in here with my shadows and getting where I want those shadows to be. And I'll let those dry, and then we can go in and define a little bit more of the side that's in the sun with more color. So here I'm just going in, marking everywhere that my shadows are. Again, making sure it is a thicker paint because the rocks back there were a little wet. Always be checking the thicknesses of your paint. As you layer on top of your paint, if it's already wet, you want to make sure you're thickening your paint and having less water. This way you'll be able to achieve the effects that you want throughout your painting. It's not just gonna blur and create blossoms and things that you don't want within there, unless you purposely are looking for blossoms and texture in a background. Then you would go in with some clean water or some other paint and create those splatters and those blossoms you want. So it's all about learning what you want to achieve with your painting and then purposely going in and mastering the appropriate thicknesses of water and even where your paper is at. Is it wet, moist, damp, or dry? Using these tools, you can manipulate your paints to do exactly what you want them to do. Here I've just been darkening up my reflection and adding some horizontal lines to the other area beyond the reflection with some light blue. Now that this section of our paper has dried a little bit more, I'm going to go in and intensify my values here. I'm going to go in with darker tones of blue and creating more detail and depth into those waves crashing back there by those rocks. I really want to make sure I get that effect and leave those areas white, but it did need to have a little bit more color there so that those waves became more apparent. I'm going to add just a little bit more color and definition to those rocks, still keeping some highlights, but just adding more value to the front side of those rocks. And I'm actually going to darken and intensify our shadows on the opposite side of those rocks. I skip around my painting just to make sure that I keep my values in check. You know, if you get something too dark, it makes it really difficult to lighten it back up. So doing this layering will continue to help you have a successful painting. I'm just checking everything, making sure I get my values right. I'm darkening up that ocean that's closest to us even more, because that's where we're going to have more intense colors. With the atmosphere, it's going to lighten up as we go back further into that. Creating, again, keeping my lines horizontal. And as I'm creating washes and layering my paint, I'm always making sure that my lines are horizontal so that my water will read as water. If you've got it going in multiple directions, it's not going to read as water. So I'm just adding in some intense tones into that water and then adding a little bit more detail and definition in this part that is reflecting the rocks and the sky. I'm pretty much done with the beach altogether. I am not going to touch that again. I'm just going to go through here and darken up my values in the water and in the rocks themselves. I want to add more detail into our rocks, that being our focal point. And I will add some warmth into it because this is a very kind of cold painting. It's a nice day at the beach, but it's kind of a colder day. But there is some warmth in those rocks. You're going to see just a little bit of reddish browns in there. And I'm going to create some birds. There was no birds in my reference photo, but I like to add them just to create more life in my painting. And then I will sign my name and we will be done. I hope you have enjoyed and were able to do this painting with me. I thought it would be fun to show you another seascape But this one, the water is a little bit more calm and has less definition in it. So I'll turn on some music and hope you enjoy this next painting. I will also leave a link to all the paints and colors that I used in this painting in the description below.
Some people have written books, some have a great look that covers the magazines for kids who are 17. But I don't know what to do, staring into the blue sky and just waiting for a sign. Some, they are certain of what awaits them when it all ends. But I don't know what will happen to me. Will I be remembered in a century? Or will I be forgotten like dust in the wind? Or the talk of the town that we are living in? Well, I don't know, I don't know. How could I know what lies ahead of me? Am I part of a grander master plan? Will I be washed away like lines in the sand? Some people that put their faith into someone who's half their age, reading from a torn out page from a book filled with lies. But I don't know what to do. I'm staring into the blue sky and just waiting for a sign. Some, they are certain of what awaits them when it all ends. But I don't know what will happen to me. Will I be remembered in a century? Or will I be forgotten Well, I don't know. No, I don't know. How could I know what lies ahead of me? Am I part of a grander master plan? Will I be washed away like lines in the sand? I don't know what will happen to me. Will I be remembered in this century? Or will I be forgotten like dust in the wind? Or the talk of the town that we are living in? I don't know what will happen to me. Will I be remembered in this century? Or will I be forgotten like dust in the wind? Or the talk of the town that we are living in? Well, I don't know. How could I know what lies ahead of me? Am I part of a grander master plan? Will I be washed away just like lines in the sand?
I hope you guys enjoyed learning about painting water with me today. And let me know what things you really struggled with and what were a lot easier than you thought it would be in the comments below. That wraps things up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, it really helps me out. And click that bell so you can be notified when I upload new videos. And I'll see you in the next one.